Okay, let's talk about columns. Um, you should remember from your print reading class and fundamentals class and stuff, columns are the vertical members that hold up a building. Most residential buildings, are held up with walls, but you'll still have columns for basements and porches, things like that. You may even have, and you may often run into some architectural columns inside the building or on porches. And what we typically call an architectural column is one that is, it's actually hollow on the inside, and there's either a structural member inside it, or the column is actually in two or more pieces that snap around a structural column. But in Revit, we can do both. All right. So now open this one file that I've given you, the wall foundations columns file. And there's a grid here that I've created for you. And so let's look at columns. So here on the architecture tab, if we hit the pull down, we have a choice of structural or architectural. Okay, so let's start with architectural columns. And there's no family loaded, so we'll load one. So we'll say yes. And so we'll go here in the library to columns. And here's your basic choices, okay? So let's go with the Doric. Chamfer, yeah, Doric column. Okay, and so we'll open that. All right, and so here's the size of it. It's the only one that it comes in. We'll talk about some of these things, later. But right here, if we look up here, this particular one, the default is from the level you're on going up, and then how high it goes. Okay, and so we're just going to leave this at its height and up to level 2. And so let's put a couple of them down here, not in the grid, if you will, okay? And so we're just going to put a couple of those in. Okay, so let's look at our 3D view and see what we got. Dang it, I'll have to edit this file. This is a structural file, so I will make this change before you get it, so that those things are showing up. Okay, and so there's our architectural columns. Okay, so let's come back to here. Yeah, like I said, this is a structural plan. That's the way it was set up when I brought it over. So you notice only structural plans are showing up. There's no regular floor plans and stuff. Okay, and so here on the Architects tab, that was our choices. We've got structural column and structural column architecture. One of the difference between them is the category that is used. And that's for filtering and what's visible on drawings and reports and analytical models of your building and stuff like that. So let's go to the Structure tab. And here we go to column, and our only choice is structural column. Okay. But after we're in the column command, we can come over here. Okay. And so let's look at what's available. Here's what's available loaded in the file already. So I'm going to go, oh, didn't mean to exit out of that. And so I'm going to go load family just so we can show you what's available. And you go down to structural columns. And you have concrete, light gauge steel, precast concrete, steel, and wood. Okay. And so if we look at steel, you can see all of these different shapes of structural steel. Okay. And a W wide flange, that's the most common. in commercial construction, or a hollow structural section, meaning it's square or rectangular, but it's hollow on the inside. Or you could have pipe columns. Those are very common in residential construction. And it's just that. It's a pipe, but it's made out of structural steel. Okay, so I'm not going to load any. I just want to show you where they were. All right, so we're just going to keep this. And some of the options here, this is set to start at this level and go down. But in our case, since we're on level 1, I want to go up. And we could go 9 feet. We could go up to level 2, and it supersedes the height. And then come in, and let's zoom in up here. Before you place it, you can do spacebar to rotate it, 90 degrees, okay? And if you move into your grid intersections, it snaps onto a grid. So here it's snapped onto this horizontal grid, here it's snapped onto the vertical grid. And so we can get both of them and then place it. Okay, so after it's placed, if I want to rotate it, I have to select it. Well, let's see. Okay, so I can do the space bar and it will rotate it 90 degrees. Oh, I want to bring it. There we go. Okay, so now let's look at another one, and let's do it again. And if I go rotate after placement, and then when I go in here to place it, I get a line, and I can type the angle I want. Oh, I clicked and it placed it at 30 degrees. I was one step ahead of myself. Okay. And if I spacebar it rotates at 90 degrees based on what my first placement was. All right, so I want to delete both of those. Okay, let's go in and do it again. Column. I forgot to mention a while ago here, but the move with grid, what that means is if it's placed on the grid and then you move the grid, the column will move with it. Okay, so if you uncheck it, it is no longer constrained to that grid line, it's just there. Okay, so we're going to leave that there. I want to go up here at grids, which will place them at the grid intersections. And I can, select them one at a time, or I could do a crossing window and catch all of them. Well, something happened there. So let me start that over. Column at grid. That's not working for some reason. Oh, there we go. I don't know what that was, but there it worked. And so now I can go finish and just put all those columns in. One other thing, because in the progress of the work, an architect may say, I want these architectural columns at this location, and these are the columns that I want. And then the structural engineer, the structural design people will come in and figure out what kind of structural column needs to be inside of the architectural column. So that's where we come in here, and that's what this is for. And then you just click on your architectural columns. and it will place them. Oh, control button to select multiples and then go finish. And of course, the tag on placement thing, it works like with doors and windows and the other things that we had. Okay, so let's look at our 3D view. And so there's all of our little columns with all of our little grids, okay? And so I'm going to pause this video, and then we will come back with wall foundations using this same file.